Hi, today I'm going to show you how to cover a set of wooden, semi-symmetrical wooden blades. As you can see from this one, I've taken the plastic ends off which usually go into your blade grips on the helicopter. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover both ends. We're going to show you how to do both ends instead of just one end. A lot of people have quite a lot of trouble of covering the semi-symmetrical curved end. I'm going to put this great myth to rest today. What we need first is a nice wooden board. This one's just basically an old bit of wood. And what we'll start by doing is getting the white heat shrink, which you can buy from most good model stores, or myself, or anybody else for that matter. And what we'll do is first is we'll put the blade on top like so, leaving a little gap either side, so it's basically in the middle. Then what we'll do with this marker, this is a marker that you can get from any stationery shop or corner shop or whatever, with a thick end one end and a thin one on the other end. We're going to use the thin end because it's a lot easier. So what we'll do is basically draw around the edge of the blade like so, just roughly. It doesn't have to be spot on, but just roughly, so that you've got an outline like so. Then what we'll do is you could either use a pair of scissors or a sharp blade, obviously being careful. I generally use this little handy little tool. It's made by Draper. And as you can see from the end, I'm not going to touch it because it is going rather hot at the moment. You can see it's quite a thick end, but it's chamfered off each side to a flat point. And what I generally do is, just for quickness, I go around like this. And this actually, because it's so hot, just basically cuts it out. And basically cuts the shape out. Like so. Then what we'll do, putting that to one side, we'll just make sure that's hot, because this has to be quite hot to do this job. The next stage will be to seal this edge, this very edge, the leading edge on which will be at the end of the blade. What I generally do is put two fingers here and your thumb there, keeping away from the heat. And what we need to do is crimp this edge. So we're going to basically melt the two ends together, but not all the way through. We don't want to do it too much, because if we do it too much, you're going to melt it, and it's going to make a big hole. With it being heat shrink, what will happen is it'll just develop a great hole, which will be no good to anybody, and you'll have to start all over again, which can be a bit of a pain. I mean, this process, you know, sometimes you have to go over probably once or twice. You know, it doesn't always go right first time. But I'm going to try my best to show you. I probably might go over this twice because it does take quite a lot of heat. So we'll probably go over this twice just to be on the safe side. Doesn't matter if you've got any rough edges. I'll show you how to deal with that in a minute or two. Basically just get this end so it's sealed. Like so. I mean, you want to be going, if you only want to be sort of pressing around this edge, probably about a millimetre or so, you know, at the most. So what we'll do is we'll just put that there for a minute. And the next stage is to make sure that this edge is sealed, because we don't want to put all this on and attach it to the blade and find out that we've got a hole one end. That's probably the last thing that we would all want, because it can be a bit of a pain if it does that. So what we'll do is we'll put the blade inside like so, and we're going to take it right to the end. Don't worry if you see little creases on the blade there, it's nothing to worry about. They'll iron out quite quickly once we've heated the heat shrink up. So don't worry about that. And what we'll do is take it to the very end, like so, and see if there's any, basically make sure that it's sealed. Let's take it right to the end. Right to the end, that is. Okay, that's pretty, yeah, that's pretty good, that's okay. Right, so the next stage is, what we'll do is, for safety reasons, we'll turn that off. We'll put that well out of the way over there. Right, the next stage. A lot of people get confused. A lot of people ask questions on, questions on the internet. How do I make the heat shrink? Well, basically, the best way for this is not with water. The best way is with a hairdryer, believe it or not. If you use water, what you're going to do is, if water does get into the blade, it'll soak into the blade, and then you'll end up with one blade or heavier or out of balance than the other one. This is a massive mistake where people say use water, use water. It's probably one of the worst things that you could do. The best thing to do is use the hairdryer, which I'll show you now. As you can see, it's shrinking as we heat it up. You go from the tip of the blade and then work your way down. You'll see all the creases eventually. All the creases will go. Around the tip as well, with the semi-symmetrical blade. Because basically you want to get it as tight as you can without it splitting. Don't go too close, because you'll end up having a great big hole in the white heat shrink. Keep doing this process until all of the little creases have gone. They'll all smooth out. Keep going over it and over it, and they will eventually vanish. Once you've done one of these, generally it's quite easy to do the other one. Now, when we get to the end where the plastic grip holder is, now, what I generally do, you have to excuse the method, so I hold it in between my knees, and then what I do, if you can hear me through the noise, is grip the blade very tightly with your knees, and then you want to be pulling on the blade, on the heat shrink. And you'll find, once you get it heated up enough, you squeeze it together like so. You'll find it is quite hot on your fingers, but what you'll find is that it will very, very slightly stretch. And this will give you a good chance to get the ends completely right. Bring the hairdryer away, like so, and just let it cool off a little bit. Once it's done this, what we will do is, obviously be very careful when you do this. Always cut away from yourself. That's what I was always told. And basically, as you can see, with this, bringing that very carefully across with a sharp blade. And just trimming off excess heat shrink as you go along, like so. Once you've done that, what we will do then, you've still got the holes which the black plastic grips go onto. So what we'll do is, very carefully, I mean I wouldn't advise this for everybody, but it's totally, you know, up to people. I put a little cross in there, and there, and there. Then I turn the blade over, and again, I find the hole, there, put a little cross in, there, put a little cross in, and there as well, and put a little cross in there. Then after that, this is a nice easy little tool from a drill set, basically. Very cheap little drill set. Wasn't expensive at all. And I use this basically to put inside the hole and slightly, just as you can see, remove bits left, like so. And you can get the general, idea, like so. Now people do say glue the plastic, the black plastic holders on. To be honest, I've never done this myself. I've never had a problem with it. To be honest, if you're refurbishing blades, I wouldn't really advise gluing it, because it makes it absolute hell to get it off. Plus, people do say get the blade and cut the access off, heat shrink around that. To be honest, I think that weakens the wooden blade, and personally I don't do that. I find it a lot better and more strength doing it this way, because if you're putting a very sharp blade into wood, it's going to be a weak point. The opposite end of the blade, here we go. So I just, basically what we're going to do is, with a little bit of, it's not too rough, but it's rough enough. All we're going to do to tidy this end up is just go round the blade like so, and it takes off any little, you know, just do it. No need, you know, there's no need to rush at it. Just basically take off them edges that are sticking up. Try not to go too much, because obviously you don't want to basically ruin the blade that you've just done and put a hole in it. So, you know, all we're going to do is just tidy up that end. That'll be ample enough. You still have your shape of the blade. Like so. And there you have it. Semi-symmetrical blade covered.